everybody, I'm Donna Baker, and I am welcoming you to the newest edition of The Faces of Monrovia. And if you're not aware, I have a website called thefacesofmonroviaca.com, and you can read all my interviews there. And today I am very excited to interview my friend Julie Bay.
Yay.
Hi, Julie.
Thanks for having me here.
I'm so happy you said yes. I'm having trouble getting people to say yes.
Really? Well, I was a little nervous because talking about yourself is hard. But
I understand that. Well, I don't have that problem.
Yeah, I got that.
So when I was rereading your interview this morning to prepare for this interview, and the whole point of this is to go beyond that interview, right? I found out how many things we actually have in common, which I was surprised to find out. So we're both from New York. We're both born in New York. I'm from upstate. You're from
Brooklyn
City.
Mm-hmm.
We also love Jane Goodall, who, I mean, how can you not? Right?
I have like 6 degrees of separation from her. I've almost met her a few times, and
that would be one of my huge exciting things.
She's pretty amazing in what she's done to educate the world about environmental stuff and animals and conservation.
Primates.
And she's done a whole lot.
She's an amazing person. And then we're also map leaders together.
Yes, although you are much earlier than me. I actually only became a map leader a couple of years ago, believe it or not, because it just took a lot of time, and it's a commitment.
It's labor intensive kind of, but it's worth it.
Absolutely. I've always wanted to do it. I just haven't been able to fit it in my schedule. So then when I finally was, I'm thrilled that I was able to do it.
I'm happy. I did it during COVID.
Oh, perfect.
So it was
online?
Really, it was all online,
Got it.
So, but I had already done Leadership Academy back in 2005 when Charlotte Shamadan had done it. So I think this one is better because it's a little more far-reaching.
Yeah.
So
no, it was pretty. It did a whole. It looked at both what goes on in the city, but it also taught you specifically about things on how to be a leader, and there was how to make a promotional flyer, and there was something about
how to host a block
party, and what does it look like when you're the leader, and how do you actually use some of your tools and skills to be a leader.
Not that you needed any leadership training, but because you're such a good leader.
Thank you, but you can always learn something new, and that's one of the things that I just the other day at the MAP conference, I sat in one of the presentations which was about leadership, and I loved some of the videos, and I've looked at them up afterwards. So that's one of the things. I will. That's one of the things that's important, is always to learn.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then the other thing is, obviously, we both serve on the Monrovia Parks Wilderness Recreation Foundation board.
Yes.
We were the charter board when it first branched out on its own.
The OGs.
The OGs, yeah, we're the OG Empower girls. And we are having an auction coming up in July, so stay tuned for that.
And special thanks to Donna for that, because she single-handedly does this auction, which is pretty amazing. So everybody who's donated or who buys an item, we thank you so much.
Yeah,
Empower makes a difference with your parks and recreation here in Monrovia. Sure. We are raising money to support parks like we're at today.
Yeah.
And you too can be part of it. So
and we are in Recreation Park, as you may have noticed. Sometimes we're in the studio, but every once in a while we end up outside, because today's a gorgeous day. The mountains are in the background. The park is gorgeous.
And we love parks.
So it's kind of a perfect spot for us. Yeah. Okay, so tell me how you ended up here in Monrovia.
So I actually got a job here in the West Coast. As you know, as you said before, I'm an East Coaster. But I got a job here in the West Coast. I had to come out here really quickly. And we were looking for a place to live, and it was my family, and then we have a couple of pets as well, and we just couldn't find a place to live. It was crazy, and I thought I was a good tenant. But there were 30 other good tenants that were looking for, you know that were looking for a place to live. Yeah. So literally, I had to start a job on a Monday, and it was Wednesday, and we didn't know where our stuff was going.
Oh my God.
And we just happened to hit the jackpot when we looked online at one of those online sites, and we saw a place, and it said pet friendly. And we called the guy, and the guy said, "I love dogs, no problem, come down, but the house is kind of funky."
Well, they gave you warning.
Yes, and we said, well, I don't mind, because we didn't know where we were going. Sure. So we literally took it sight unseen, showed up to this funky house, and said, okay, we're home. We didn't know where we were, what we're doing, and it was like kismet, because we were supposed to be here.
good. So
sure.
so it was an accident that you ended
It
up
was
in
an
Monrovia.
absolute accident, but it says that the people in Monrovia are pet friendly because they let us come. And since then, it's just been amazing.
Yeah, you fit right in here, actually.
We've lived in many places as a family, and we've never been consistent in a place that we've all liked.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and this place, all three of us seem to fit in perfectly.
That's great. That's fantastic. So, you're so involved, and you moved here in 2016,
2016.
right? So it's only been 8 years that you've been here, and yet you are more involved than most people I've known for 30 years. So that's good on you.
Thank you. But, I will say I was brought up with a family that was involved. So it was part of who I am, and part of the expectation of who I am is that you're going to do something.
Yeah.
And
great.
So then I am involved. I make sure that my son is involved, which then means I'm involved in the things he's involved in.
You have the busiest schedule
Yes,
of anybody
I
I know
know.
between your stuff and your son's
But
stuff.
the whole point of it is, I think it's never been okay. My dad told me it's never okay to just sit back and complain. If you don't like something, get out and change it.
I
To
agree.
me, the best way to change something is to change it locally.
Yep.
And even if it's a small thing, like whatever it is that you're interested in, you participate in, it makes a difference. We just happen to be interested in a lot of things.
Yeah, that's
So
great. Yeah.
and sometimes
the
it's
thing
hard
is,
to choose.
You need to vote too, or you can't complain, right?
Well,
So-
you need to vote or you can't complain.
That's
That's right. And it's really, really important to get off your chair and make a difference.
Absolutely.
Whether it's in your child's school, or whether it's your religious institution, or
Yeah.
whether it's a place that you love, like the parks. Just get out and do something.
Right, I agree.
Everybody's so afraid, or they say they don't have time, or they don't want to do it. And I certainly don't have time either. I work a full-time job too.
But you make the time.
But it's because it's priority.
Yeah, it should be a priority, I think. I don't think a whole lot of people have, I also have that same volunteer mindset where I feel like if I'm going to live someplace, I want to help make it a little better for the next people that come after us. So I immediately got involved when I moved here as well. I know you're also a community services commissioner, so you have a lot to do with the recreation here in town beyond the Empower board. So how is
Yeah.
that working on the commission?
So that's one of my most joyous things that I do is
Yeah.
being a commissioner for the city of Monrovia. When I applied, and by the way, anybody can apply to be
Yeah,
a commissioner, and everybody is encouraged to do that. I thought I had something to offer because my background was in social services. My background was in animal welfare. I thought, I could be a good fit for it.
Sure.
But I was a little nervous because I really wasn't politically motivated at all, and I just wanted to have the community be better. So I applied, and when I got on, it was pretty fascinating to learn everything that the city is doing to try to make our parks and recreation and social services better.
Yeah.
So to have a voice and to be able to be in the know, which has always been important to me, is
Yeah.
to be in the know as well, because
Yeah.
I want to know facts. I don't want to just hear from social media or hear from somebody else. I want
Yeah.
to know, and what better way to do that than
Yeah,
to serve?
I
So
agree.
it's been a really fantastic experience. The other commissioners on the commission are people who are now dear in my heart, and as well as Empower, and it's just been something that's been amazing for me, and I feel like I'm making a difference. So
Well, you are. You absolutely are. And that, I think all of the commissioners make a difference, no matter which commission
Yeah.
they're serving on. And yeah, I agree that people should step up to the
Yep.
plate and sign up to interview for these commissions. I do think that there's a little bit of an issue that people get discouraged because the same people get appointed over
Right.
and over and over again. So I really think the city ought to relook at the
Time
time
limits,
frames
yeah.
involved. I served for 20 years, so I'm speaking.
Oh, what were you
Yeah,
on?
I was on the Historic Preservation
Got it.
Commission for
Okay.
20 years. And I really, I felt like I had a precedent in my head that I had to share, but really they survived without me.
Yeah.
And any commission can
Yeah.
survive without a 20-year commissioner.
Well, it's also important. Same thing with boards.
Yeah.
I work a lot with boards, and you have people on boards for 30 years.
Yeah.
And if you have that, then you're never going to grow.
And you're never going to get new ideas.
Ideas and energy and commitment in the community.
Yeah.
So it's really important to have a balance there, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go a little away from Monrovia here because there was something in your interview that you did not expand on, but You won an Emmy.
Yes.
So how did you win an Emmy award? That's so exciting.
It was the funniest thing ever, actually. It's one of those things that's a good talking point because it sits on my shelf and sometimes people notice it and I'll be in meetings with them and all of a sudden they'll be like,
Is that an Emmy?
Because they don't expect me to have an Emmy because I'm not the most creative and I'm not the one who's making videos or movies. And so I was literally working in a governmental animal welfare organization in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my roles is I was the public information officer. So, which means I promoted the organization, but it was really all about animal stuff.
On video.
No, just anything. I wrote press releases. I might have
okay.
been the spokesperson. I just, whatever. And I literally got a call one day as I'm sitting in my office from some guy who said, I'm from the Television Arts and Sciences. And I'm like, I'm thinking he's going to tell me there's a loose dog in the backyard. And he basically said, I'm calling to tell you won an Emmy. And I started laughing. And I said, I won an Emmy? What are you talking about? I said, the organization won an Emmy? Why? And he goes, no, you. And he was getting frustrated with me because I'm like, I don't understand why I won an Emmy. And it turns out there is a special award called the Governor's Award.
Right.
Where people who work well with the media can be nominated, and I got nominated by the local ABC television station for my work with them, specifically on a particular 3-part series that they did, and I won.
That is fantastic.
So my
Yay.
favorite thing in the world was being able to stand in front of, there were about 600-700 people in the audience. They were all media professionals, and I was able to stand in front of them and give them a little speech about why they should work with their local animal shelters and how animal
Excellent.
issues are important for society. And that was probably one of my best things I've ever done.
So how did you get involved in the whole animal welfare, animal humane society kind of environment? How did that
So
happen?
I've been professionally working in animal welfare and other nonprofits for a very long time. But I believe in the power of magical moments. And I was a college student working at a store in Manhattan, and a mobile pet adoption unit pulled up in front of the store, and I walked out to pet the dogs. And the guy,
I would do the same thing.
The guy who was driving the vehicle was kind of a crusty older guy, and I was early 20s, and he starts rolling his eyes at me. So I was a sassy New Yorker, and I'm like, dude, why are you rolling your eyes at me? Like, I'm now fighting with the guy. And he's like, well, everybody comes out here and pets the dog and doesn't do anything to help them. And I was like, well, I live with my mother and I'm in college. What do you expect me to do? And he literally shoved a volunteer application in my face and said, I know you're not going to fill this out, but here, you could become a volunteer. And to be honest, I filled it out just to make him angry. And I was going to prove to him, and I went to a volunteer orientation, and literally a light bulb went off in my head, and I knew within seconds it was what I was meant to do.
Awesome.
And while I don't encourage people to fight with one another, as me and Paul Brody were fighting on the vehicle, it reminds me all the time of the power one person has on somebody else's life.
That's so true.
And I actually have his picture, a black and white picture of him hanging on my wall in my office.
Rolling his eyes?
No, but reminding me when I need a pickup on is what I'm doing making a difference, I look at Paul Brody and it reminds me that I have the power to help somebody, and you never know. You have to have a good attitude, and you have to, show that what you're doing is making a difference.
Right.
And I look at Paul and it helps me remember that.
Excellent.
So it was literally, I tell people I'm in animal welfare because some guy rolled his eyes at me.
And he was a role model.
Yes,
I made a joke.
Yes, he was, and I do that all the time. I think about my interactions with people and how maybe what I'm doing is going to show a kid or show an adult.
Oh, I
that
think it
they
does.
could,
Even if they're not telling you, you are having an effect.
Well, Paul had no idea that he made me who I was.
Right, and that's awesome. And I had the same thing happen. I worked for the county in social services.
Okay.
And one of the social workers there saw something in me that made her approach me and asked me to volunteer for a program she had for parenting classes. And I'm not a kid person by any means, but she asked me if I would keep the kids entertained while the parents were in their classes. And that got me involved in being volunteer. And I was a big sister for 3 girls. And so it's so rewarding in so many ways.
It's a moment in time. You just have to be open.
You do have to be
And there's so many
open.
people who are just not open.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
agree.
And if you're open to it, you never know what's going to happen. And I can pinpoint easily 4 or 5 different points in my life where there was a moment that took me to the next place. You know, you don't realize it when it's happening, but afterwards you're like, wow, that moment, if I never walked on that van, I would have never, been who I am today.
Right. So back to Monrovia.
Yay.
So you, in your interview online, said that one of the things that you love about Monrovia is that it's such a foodie place. So talk about where you like to go when you're going to lunch and dinner and breakfast, and what are your favorite restaurants, and who makes the best pancakes, and just tell me why you said it was a foodie place.
Well, I love that we have a downtown, and I love that I can walk downtown, and it's a little far, but I can still walk anyway.
Far.
And I love that there's so many different restaurants that we could choose from, and that when I'm inviting people who aren't from Monrovia to come, they're always so amazed at what's happening in downtown Monrovia. I'm a vegetarian, so as a vegetarian, I have to make sure that I choose options that I can go to.
Sure.
So
most places accommodate vegetarian.
Well, that's it. That's what you find,
right?
but not all. Believe it or not all. Or there's one option on the menu,
like pasta with tomato sauce.
Which you get a little bored at.
Yeah.
But so right now my favorite place, and my friends and I always go there as like when we celebrate everybody's birthdays. It's there. We go to the Diplomat all the time.
Of course.
And the Diplomat the entire menu is basically something that I can eat.
Oh, that's good.
That's
great.
So it feels healthy, and it's not crazy expensive.
Yeah.
And, we also like to go to Chinese food on Huntington. That's very yummy. I think that's Monrovia. I forgot what it's called. It's next to it's delicious. We go like weekly. But it's very good, and it's going to come to me in the middle of the night.
Where is it?
It's right on Huntington, and it's next to Janet's, the Mediterranean
that's
place.
Duarte. That's Duarte.
I'm sorry. Well, it's our
Young's
neighbors.
Gourmet.
Young's
Gourmet. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay,
they're very good.
Yeah, we go there a lot, and Janet's
and the new
as
Thai
well.
place is really good if you haven't
where's
tried
that?
it. Thai Time.
Okay.
Right up from Jake's, right up from the Chamber.
That's right.
So you should try that. And they have a lot of vegetarian options.
And we like to go to breakfast at Jake's. The Jake's breakfast is great, and we like to go to what used to be Paco's for breakfast. They have a really good breakfast there as well.
Don Ricardo's.
Don Ricardo's. So it's just been fun to just kind of pop up. I think I wrote in that part of my goal is to go to every restaurant.
Yes, you did say that.
So
have you made it
I'm
yet?
still checking off that goal and trying to decide. Some of them are better for me than others. I like the pizza at Old Town Pizza. Actually, Old Town Pizza has an eggplant parmesan sandwich, which where I come from is called an eggplant parmesan hero. And it rivals a New York City pizza place.
Really?
Eggplant parmesan.
Oh,
I
now
encourage everybody to get it.
That
It's
says
so
a lot.
good.
That says
when
a
I'm in
lot.
the mood for like a cheesy thing, I'll get this eggplant sandwich, and it's delicious.
Oh, that's good to know. I'll put that on my list.
Yeah.
So
When I go in there and I ask for a hero, however, they look at me and they're like, I don't even know what I'm talking about. So I'm like, a sandwich?
So, speaking of hero, I think we talked about Jane Goodall. Is she your hero? Or do you have a hero that you want to...
She's definitely one of the people that I admire. I think my hero is more personal, and my hero is my stepmother.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You did say that in your interview.
She is another person that came into my life at a really important time and taught me the meaning of compassion and empathy and being involved in things. And
Fantastic.
I'm about to show this to her when it comes out, so she can cry too. But
Hi, stepmom.
Yeah, Allison.
Hi, Allison.
She is really an important person for my character. But Jane Goodall is certainly one of those people that I, admire, and I feel like she has just single-handedly educated a lot of people, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, well, so have you, by the way. So, not knowingly, but for sure you do.
Thank you.
So, I think we're kind of getting ready to wrap up here.
Oh.
I know, it goes fast, right? It's a nice conversation.
Yeah.
I told you could talk about yourself.
I was telling Donna that I'm like, I don't like to talk about myself.
She did fine.
I could stand up in front of talk about things I care about, but not myself.
You did good.
Thank you.
You did good. So, thank you so much for tuning in. I want to thank KGEM again for approaching me to make Faces of Monrovia a live show. Thanks for tuning in. If you're interested in becoming one of my Faces of Monrovia guests online, you can go to thefacesofmonroviaca.com and nominate, and you can nominate yourself, or if you know somebody else, you can nominate them. And read up on all of your neighbors, because there's some fascinating stories there, including Julie's. So thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me, Donna.
You're welcome.